Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the security challenges in the light of the attack yesterday, of course, and as far as the security challenges for the government is concerned, of course, the government and at this time is committed to ensuring and making Pakistan, its civilians, its forces safe. Of course, we've seen the kind of reaction, the responsibility as far as the TTP is concerned. We'll be talking about the ramifications of this attack itself on the overall security situation of the country at this time, and what this means for us in terms of the challenges it will pose for Pakistan in the recent future. I have with me Farid Rais, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Lt.Gen General Raza Muhammad Khan, who is Raza Muhammad Khan, who is a senior analyst. Thank you for being with us. Ji, Farid Sahab, overall, of course, we know what now we've seen the TTP claim responsibility of the attack that happened yesterday. There's no doubt now about what happened, why it happened, and overall the way that our security forces have been trying to deal with this challenge. How do you look at this recent increase in terrorism and the kind of challenge that, of course, it poses for us at this time?
Thank you, Mahrukh. First of all, it is the rising challenge of the terrorism. Pakistan is already facing the challenge of the economy, the political turmoil. It is also a challenge, and added to it, the terrorism, the challenge of the terrorism is also now we are facing over it.
Definitely.
Pakistan has what you can say has fought the war against terror in the past for 20 years, and we all know about it, that by giving sacrifices, our law enforcement agencies, our armed forces, our civilians, we all had a national resolve to beat the terrorism, and Alhamdulillah, we did that thing. So now it is a challenge, because at this moment the political instability, the economic challenge what we are facing over it is an addition. But I think so, okay, at this moment we all need to think over it, that how we can steer forward Pakistan. At this moment, it is not the time for a political.
You think unity is the order of the day?
Yes, unity is the basic thing, and let me allow to speak over here that political party, one political party who is not willing to sit with the political forces of Pakistan. At the end of the day, this is a national resolve. This is not the war of an individual. This is not the war or a challenge of a political party. This is not a war or a challenge for a government. It is a challenge for a nation, and as a nation we had to go. We have to steer all the things, whatever efforts we can do. For that thing, we need to set aside our political gains. We need to set aside what an individual or a single political party wish to achieve. This is not the time to do that, because
let me come back to you on that note. General Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
General Saab, of course, I don't think that there are two opinions about what Farid Saab is saying. Of course, that this unity is the order of the day. We need there to be, a collective effort. It's certainly a challenge for the nation at this time when we talk about, the lives that are being lost, what happened in Peshawar, what happened yesterday in Karachi. Certainly the kind of security breaches that we are seeing, they're by no means, small. They pose a huge challenge. Of course, we've defeated these kind of terrorists before. We've launched terrorist operations before. There's no doubt that our army, our security forces are well equipped and resolved to do this. But again, what Farid Sahab is saying, it's a time of some turmoil. We are seeing political, forces are not, unfortunately, political parties, the opposition at this time, unfortunately, is not rallying behind, a unified front, so to speak.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think I'll totally support what has been said, because political instability is a weakness which is always identified, by anti-states element. Whether they are domestic or whether they are foreign, and therefore I think it is extremely important. But having said that, I think counter-terrorism is not only the responsibility of the government, and in that I include both the federal government as well as the provincial government. It is my responsibility, it is your responsibility, it is the responsibility of the civil society, it is the responsibility of political leaders, of religious leaders, across the political divide and at the grassroots level, who should actually condemn the narrative of the TPP and all their affiliates with a better narrative and with the right narrative, which is available in the form of, the narrative of Pakistan, which was approved, I think 3 years back. And in that narrative, it is very clearly stated. It's actually, I think, 100 pages booklet. It is available.
You're talking about the National Action Plan.
No, I'm not talking about the National Action Plan.
Okay.
I am talking of the national narrative of Pakistan, which is different, which has been formulated, and it is available both in English as well as in Urdu. In Urdu, it is titled Pakistan Ka Qaumi Bayaniya, and that has actually been endorsed by religious scholars of all the major religious schools of thought. And it is a unanimous document which has declared suicide haram in Islam. And it is very clearly said that, if Islam has declared suicide haram, then how can it permit the murder of fellow Muslims and a number of other things? So I think it is the political religious leadership of the country which we need to unite and inform the people about this, to beat that fake and false narrative of the TPP.
General Sahab, I think that's a very relevant. I want to come back to you. Let me go to Farid Sahab on this. I think General Sahab has raised a very relevant point. He's talking about the fact that we need the religious leadership of the country to unite with the political leadership. And when he talks, I think this is for the first time that at least I am talking about this as far as our own what General Saab talks about, bayaniya narrative, so to speak, of the country, and how suicide, of course it's been a huge issue, suicide bombers, the way that suicide killings and bombings have become a part of terrorist operations, terrorist attacks, so to speak, and how to negate that. I think that's a very relevant thing, and we haven't been able to, unfortunately, take that bull by the horns.
Yeah, very right about it, Mahrukh. But this has been done in the past also.
Okay, it has.
As I mentioned earlier, that we have fought the war against terror for 20 years.
Of course.
At that time, it was the national resolve to beat the terrorism. And
but have we been able to get that narrative across?
We did that in the past. We did that in the past. But the basic thing which I like to talk about here, that we need to consider about the withdrawal of the US forces from Afghanistan, as our Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has also urged the international community to take and to play a vital role for the peace in Afghanistan. The basic thing what we are talking again and again over here, that after the US withdrawal from Afghanistan, and nobody is there to take care of about it. The interim government in Afghanistan, it was said that the Afghan soil will not be used for the terrorism in Pakistan. But basic thing over is that not only is Pakistan, in the past also Pakistan has played its pivotal role for all the talks and whatever.
But Farid, what do we do about Afghanistan? What do we do about this spate of terrorism that invariably, unfortunately,
it is the international community. They have to play their role. Pakistan had done what Pakistan has did its job, whatever Pakistan can do. But now it's the thing that the international community must not leave.
But Farid, it's Pakistan invariably that suffers. So other than of course asking the international community to play its part, to play its role, to do what they can, we have to be able to insulate ourselves against these kind of attacks that are coming from there.
I already said that these are the things, that the rising wave of the terror, it's the new rise in the wave and the terror, but already we are facing the political instability and the economic instability also. And we are also being hit by the natural disaster. You know about the flood hit areas and what the flood did to us, our economy, our people. They are already in a very challenging situation. So the international community, besides playing their role in Afghanistan also, they must also consider about what Pakistan is going through, the economic challenges also.
Let me go to General Sahab. General Sahab, do you think that it's time for us as a nation, of course, international community, I'm by no means saying that role, is something that international community shouldn't play its part. International community shouldn't do what they can to help, assist, claim responsibility for what's happening in Afghanistan. Certainly, they are responsible to an extent, for what things, the way that they were, left as the Afghans, the way things were left there, the way the withdrawal happened, all of those things are there. But don't you think it's time that we stop, giving the onus to the international community? We have to take the ownership, we have to insulate ourselves. And like Farid Sahab said, of course, we did so before at one time. And if we unite again, there's, of course, we can defeat this kind of terrorism.
Yes, definitely, it is the responsibility of the international community as well, because if there is internal insecurity in Pakistan, then eventually, it will destabilize other countries and regional countries in particular. But I think the greater onus lies on us, on the people of Pakistan. And, right now, let me go back to what has happened in Karachi and before that in Peshawar and in Pannu. So I think there needs to be greater security audits carried out. And if you see, you will find that, weaknesses were pointed out by the TPP and others which were exploited. And they have been admitted by the senior most political police officials, both of KP as well as Sindh, and in some cases in Balochistan. Like in Karachi, the 3 security checkposts at the chief of police office, they were unmanned this time. The rear wall was unprotected. There were no CCTV cameras on the ShahRukh Sah site. And, the main reason is that I think the provincial government have not budgeted their own counter-terrorism departments adequately. And while the police budget itself should have been increased, the CTG's budget has not been increased for a very long time, although that there are clear directions in the National Action Plan that it be done. That is the great weakness. And whatever, inquiries have been held, they've all been held, at the level of the concerned department alone. I think that is not enough. They need to have, neutral people involved in that, possibly, from other provinces, from the security agencies, like in case of Karachi, from the ranger who were part of this operation, so that, they can bring out all the weaknesses. And I think those weaknesses and recommendations need to be shared with all the other provinces. In this, I think the Ministry of Interior could then collate all those aspects, because the Inspector General of the Police, they are appointed by the Ministry of Interior. And at the federal level, the Ministry of Interior has a lead role in counter-terrorism. So all these things, I think, need to be put together. I think in KP, some of the committees were, I think, reincarnated, and I think they are doing a very good job. And I think that needs to happen in other provinces as well. But the provinces, with the assistance of the federal securities agencies, I think they need to train the police officials. They need to improve their security.
Let's go back to the National Action Plan. Let's go back to the National Action Plan. Farid Sahab, the National Action Plan, of course, there's some points that still need work. together, uniting, of course, as a nation, like you are saying. Unfortunately, the kind of political unity that we would like is missing at this point. So we have to work with what we have, and in that kind of absence, looking at the National Action Plan, of course, narrative is very important, what General Saab was earlier saying. But where do you think, particularly we lack?
Again, unity.
Unity, of course. I mean,
it's the political, the basic thing.
But I don't think any party, wants there to be, the kind of situation that.
So if they don't want, the things will be going on as the things are over here. We are facing the challenges. Every new challenge is hovering upon us. So we need to understand that what we have to do.
You're saying dialogue between political parties, sitting together.
It is the need of the hour. It is the need of the hour. The dialogue is very important.
Jail Bharo Tehreek clearly is not the way forward at this time.
At this moment, we need to understand what we need to do. The terrorism or the terrorists are making their way. They are attacking our law enforcement agencies, the people, the personnel over there. I said earlier over this that it is not the time for a single political party or the others to gain their political benefits of what they are going to do. What they have in there, first they believe in that they were going to dissolve the Punjab Assembly, then they dissolved the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Assembly, and overall then when the name for the caretaker chief minister was sought, by then there was no response, and if the election commission decided on its own, now the party is claiming that.
You're saying the politicking needs to stop and it has to be a unified front.
It should be done. It is the time. It is the now right time that we need to understand over it that for our political gains, we'll not settle down over it that the country will now need to face some other kind of a challenges. It's not the time. We need to resolve those challenges. We need to go for a dialogue. I think so the biggest responsibility lie upon the shoulders of the government, because the government, it is the part of the government. The government needs to do much ahead other than what others are doing. I think so. There must
dialogue
be a
is a two-way process. I don't think that
no, it
you
is
and I can have a dialogue
process, but we can find some common grounds. We should sort for some common ground where someone could talk about it. Yes, if somebody is arrogant, if somebody doesn't want to do, if somebody wants to make the things get done on their own terms and conditions, then it's not the way. We need to come on something on a midpoint.
General Saab, okay, political unity certainly we need is the order of the day. We are unfortunately, faced with an opposition at this time. Clearly, Tehreek-e-Insaf, if we talk about the PTI, the PTI chief, there is clearly, he's on a different kind of a tangent altogether. He's talking about Jail Bharo Tehreek. He's talking about more, aggression coming from his party, more, that style, agitational style of politics which we've been seeing. So for them to come to a kind of common ground, which Farid Saab is talking about, for them to come to some sort of, to talk to the government, to agree on, a course of action as the opposition, unfortunately doesn't seem to be happening tomorrow or very, very near in the future. But in that, let's talk about Afghanistan particularly. Let's talk about our strategy. Of course, more dialogue, that kind of option certainly doesn't seem to be viable at this time. How do you look at things, our strategy in terms of the violence that's coming from there?
Okay, I have identified, two aspects of our counter strategy. The other aspect of the strategy could be that we prevent the nexus of the TTP, Daesh, RAW, the BLA and the BLP, which is clearly there. We actually concentrate and focus on finding the terrorist facilitators, their financiers, their sympathizers, both foreign as well as domestic. This is not an easy task, but I think this has to be done. And if you deny them, these things, I think our job will be much easier. And again, in this, I think this is actually the responsibility of multiple state organs, to find out who their financiers are and In case of TTP, I think they have internal financiers, as we have found out. They also have, external financiers, and so all those have to be found out. And once that is done, I think it will be easier to handle them. In addition to that, you actually asked about some of the flaws in the 20-point national action plan. I think the previous government reappraised the national action plan, and therein it was directed that now there should be provincial action plans as well, flowing out of the national security policy, if you recall, which they had formulated.
But General Sahab, doesn't the national action plan itself envisage a lot of action by different provinces also? I mean, it envisages a cumulative action, if I'm not wrong, by the provinces also, and by, of course, the federation.
Yes, absolutely. Out of the 20 points, I think 3 or 4, there are glaring inadequacies in them. And one of them is the reorganization of Madaris, on which I think there hasn't been much of work, and there has been no consensus. And I think that was because of political reasons, which is very unfortunate. And as I said, another important component was, look, what has happened after the 18th Amendment is that the law and order is now a provincial subject. And after the 18th Amendment, when the 7th NFC award was passed, then 57% of all the resources of the countries are with the provinces. The federation is left with the remaining. It is not in a position now, to pay the external debts, or, to undertake mega development projects, or, to help the provinces further. The provinces are very rich. They are so rich that they, at the end of the financial year, they have surpluses. And some of the provinces have even refused, to surrender those surpluses to the federal government as dictated by the IMF. So, that is the issue, that the focus should now shift from the federation to the provinces. And I think the provinces need to do much more. Of course, the federation is there to help and assist the provinces, but I think the major work needs to be done.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being with us, General Sahab. Thank you for your very valuable input. Farid Sahab, General Sahab is talking about, he feels that the provinces need to take more initiative, they need to take more action. I don't think there's anything, I think everyone would agree with that. As far as the National Action Plan is concerned, going back there, do you think the provinces, whatever, was relegated to the provinces has been done? I think, there's a lot that needs to be done there also.
I agree with General Sahab, and the question which you have raised over here, there is no hurdle and there is nobody who is stopping the provinces to do of whatever they can do on their own part. They don't need to put the blame or the responsibility over the federal government that they are not cooperating with us. I think so the federal government is playing its part and its role. But as you know, and if you remember that there as far as if I give an example to you, that as far as NDMA is concerned, the National Disaster Management Authority.
Yes.
But other than that, the provinces have the PDMA. So what are the things which stop the provinces to beef them up? Because if they don't beef them up, and if they don't foresee what challenges we can face, whatever has been done, we have already seen in the recent floods what the provinces has done. At the end of the day, they need to
armies assistance, rangers assistance,
armies, and all those things. So if you are trying to engage our forces in all these things, so they have multiple challenges over there. As the terrorism is over there, it is not only the task that the terrorism is being wiped out, if is been rooted out, but there is also a challenge that the terrorists could not infiltrate, and they could not put their feet again on the ground. So this is the biggest challenge which our law enforcement agencies have to face over there. But if the provinces do not play their own role, if they do not beef them up, that in the case of the disaster or any form of calamity whichever we have faced in the recent past also, we have done that the provinces, their own preparation or their own preparedness is not up to the mark. So they need to understand this thing.
You're saying the action from the provinces is lacking, and there needs to be more, of course, you know, they need to do more.
The basic thing is the coordination and the check and balance which is need to be done, and which is need to do on a priority basis. What the provinces are doing, they should do over there, and there should be a
Let me come back to you, Farid Sahab. We have with us Dr. Manzoor Afridi, who is a senior analyst. Manzoor Sahab, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Ji, Manzoor Sahab, we're talking about, of course, the recent security challenges that Pakistan faces at this time at the hands of, you know, the terrorist attacks that we've seen particularly. What do you know, of course, we're talking about the National Action Plan, the fact that, you know, the provinces need to do more. But overall, what are some of your, you know, in your opinion, main measures, you know, that need to be taken, you know, ASAP, as far as, you know, this recent spate of terrorism is concerned, to combat, you know, what's happening?
The way of the recent security situation, no doubt that it is very much unfortunate in the entire nation that is worried about the evolving situation. But of course, many measures and different strategies, they can be adopted to cope with this situation. I think first thing, that is coordination among various departments and ministries, and also between the federation and the federating units, I mean the provinces. That is very much necessary that at least on priority basis, they should coordinate everything and all information with one another. Second thing, that is the responsibility that as a nation, we have to take responsibility, and everybody should look into its own self, that how much I'm responsible for my duty and what can I do in my capacity. And the third thing, that is of course the check and balance, that every department and unit from the lowest level to the highest level, it should be concerned and accountable for all the measures, actions, decisions, the planning, and all these things necessary. And beyond that, I think, I mean that it is domestically or within a country, but on international level, we have to do, and more, I think the international community has to do. And that is, I mean that it is our shared responsibility.
Manzoor Sahab, let me come back to you. We also have with us Dr. Akhtar Ali Shah, who's a former IG. I want to take him on board also. Ji, Dr. Akhtar, can you hear me?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Ji, Dr. Akhtar, of course, you know, this recent attack and the fact that, you know, it's the forces that seem to be, you know, at the behest of this recent spate of terrorism, as far as taking responsibility is concerned. Overall, you know, how do we ensure that this doesn't repeat itself? What, you know, as a former police officer, how do you feel, you know, the security lapse here? You know, how do we ensure ourselves, insulate ourselves against more attacks?
We have to understand the dimension of and dynamics of this phenomena. Rather, we have to understand the phenomena behind this kind of terrorism. And it is not the first kind of such attack. We have been experiencing such kind of attacks and such kind of acts of terrorism for the last so many years. And we have to understand that the terrorists, they are not a localized phenomena. It's not confined to one district or to one province. Rather, this is a very well-dated organization spread over. They have a network which spreads not only in all over Pakistan, but also across the border in Afghanistan and other areas. So, while dealing with this kind of terrorism and militancy, the most and the paramount then onus is on the intelligence agencies, including the federal level and the provincial level. At the provincial level, the counterterrorism department. At the federal level, the intelligence bureau and other agencies. Because these attacks are usually traced back to the network of Tehreek-e-Taliban, where now their hideouts are in Afghanistan as far as their nucleus leadership is concerned, nucleus is in Afghanistan. But having said this, the present attack in Karachi and even in Peshawar and CID Banu, CGD Banu, it indicates that they have a very well organized network even within in every district. So when they were carrying out this attack in Karachi, they must have surveilled that area. So we have now to trace the masterminds, those who plan these and those who recruit and train them. So we have to evolve a better intelligence system. We have to take initiative. What is the defensive mode?
Better intelligence system, certainly. I think that's very important. Dr. Saab, let me come back to you. Farid Saab, Dr. Saab is talking about a better intelligence system. Certainly, that seems to be very important. But in terms of dealing with the crux of it, the roots of it, when General Saab earlier mentioned the narrative, you know, when we, again, I want to come back to this because it keeps happening. Suicide bombing is the one way, you know, the terrorists are able to infiltrate us, and you know, where we are most vulnerable. And narrative building, you know, the way that we need to bring our religious scholars on board with this, you know, and have this narrative building happen through schools, through madrasas. Of course, that's also part of the national action plan, but that also, I think we need to go back to that. We need to reinforce that, because that is where we're most vulnerable. Do you agree? Yes,
I believe in this thing, and I also believe in this thing, this intelligence sharing and intelligent intelligence sharing. Actually, at this moment, the counter-terrorism is over here. What we believe in this thing, that we have the counter-terrorism, but actually we need to devise some kind of a system or a strategy that we could more effectively and more smartly get the things or get the information beforehand. At this moment, we see this thing. It was very horrible to see at that time that the terrorists, better intelligence system, that they struck the police lines in Peshawar. It was so horrible over there. We cannot express this kind of a thing. Of course. And not only this, but also the CTD, the Karachi, the KPO, and all the things, and the terrorist activity. We remember the times a decade back over when we had blast over there, and every day and every week we came across some kind of a blast and the loss of the precious lives. So I believe in this thing, that at this moment the intelligence sharing, it must be considered over there. We must reconsider our national action plan. We must beef up the NACTA. We must beef up our all the stakeholders over there, those who are playing the role and they playing their vital role over there. We need to beef up, and we need to go, and we need to make sure our things and our strategy in a very better and a smarter way. At this moment, at the international front, we need to make sure the international community must play their role in bringing the peace, and by coordinating and playing the role in the Afghanistan. What about infighting? I want to come back to that. Let me go to Dr. Manzoor Afridi. Dr. Manzoor, what about the infighting that we've seen that's happening within Afghanistan, within the ranks, you know, the Taliban ranks? How is that going to impact the overall, you know, situation as far as our own security situation is concerned?
Yeah, the Afghan Taliban, they are also divided into three groups. So one that is led by the Sirajuddin Haqqani, that group, another one that is the Mullah Haibatullah Khun, and the another one that is also Kabul-based within the Taliban. So they have differences on various issues, even about the female education and the closure of such institutions in Afghanistan. So it can also have impacts and consequences for the region and also for the security situation over here. I mean that if they are united, so anybody can talk with them, and if they have differences, they have different views. So sometimes it is even difficult to talk about that who is more powerful within that, or they have a united action or united voice or views about that. So that is important. We have already seen it within various groups in Pakistan, in the past that it was difficult to negotiate. So such kind of situation, of course, it is worrisome, and it can have more impact in future as well about the security situation, because Afghanistan is also going through such turmoil, and no doubt that any development in Afghanistan which takes place, it can have positive as well as negative consequences for Pakistan. So in current situation, unfortunately, that it is a negative implications and impacts what we can get from this situation.
Okay, let me come back to you. Ji, let me go to Dr. Akhtar Ali Shah. Ji, Dr. Sahab, you were talking about, I hope you were listening to what Dr. Manzoor was saying. As far as the Taliban in fighting is concerned, and of course, our border, the way that we can, of course, deal with borders, across the border security, all of those things. How equipped are we in dealing with that? What is the status of our security as far as our border security is concerned?
As far dealing with these factions are concerned, we have a very long history. We have gained a lot of experience for the last 42 at least years, starting with the Sohr Inqilab revolution in Afghanistan during the Zia's era and after 9/11. So we are very well cognizant, and we very well understand the psyche of all the groups. So we are adept in that, and it will not be very difficult as far as those at the policy level or at the operational level are concerned. Now coming to the another point, that is the border security. We have already spent around $350 million or $500 million fencing as far as Durand line is concerned. So they now, after installing the fencing there, we have also the surveillance systems there. So we have just main passages there. So we have to improve as far as checking on these routes are concerned. And but if you take, for instance, Torkham border, so there is around 10 to 30,000 daily traveling over there. So the most important again is that we have already done profiling, indexation. We have got the data about all the main leaders and their networks in Afghanistan and across here in Pakistan as well. So now, based on that, the intelligence agencies have to further gain information. Those who are traveling and meeting such kind of networks and leaderships over there. So based on that, then you can net the terrorists while traveling to Pakistan. Otherwise, it will be very difficult when there is a flow of traffic on roads. So without proper intelligence, netting the terrorists is difficult. I remember when operation took place in Swat, they were IDPs. Then the terrorists, the anticipation was that they would be fleeing towards urban centers. So many of them were then later on picked up on intelligence information. So we have to develop this if we want to achieve our goals regarding bringing them to justice.
Right, fair enough. Ji, Farid Sahab, do you agree with what Dr. Manzoor is saying? Of course, he's talking about overall security. He's saying that we need to insulate ourselves better as far as across the border situation. Of course, there are no two opinions on overall that. What else? Of course, I'm running out of time also. But overall, of course, political unity is one thing we've identified. Narrative building is another. Trying to reinforce the narrative of Pakistan, which is what General Raza talked about. I think that's also very important. cross-border security, the role of international community, all of those things are also important. Additionally, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, economic stability.
Well, that seems to be a long-term goal.
It's really very important. Without that, we cannot achieve other goals. It is need of the hour, because without economic stability, without empowering yourself, without making yourself stable, by not depending upon others to help you out again and again, the things will be more challenging. If we will not be able to get rid of this economic challenge, if we'll be able to get rid of this economic challenge, then everything would be possible. We can make things possible, whatever we need to want, whatever we need to do. But the basic thing over here that what we are striving and what we are trying to manage is to maintain ourselves on the economic fronts. So this is the biggest dilemma and the challenge what we face. All the other things, all the other elements are also important over here, but the basic thing is over here that if you are facing some challenges on the economic front, then you will not be able to pay attention to all other things. Yes, we are doing all other things also. We are doing the things in the parallel. It doesn't mean that we are not paying attention to those things, but if we get ourselves economically stable.
What about our strategy with the Taliban at this time?
We need to make sure that if someone is against the state, that we should go after it. There is no there should not be any kind of a room or we should not get any kind of a leverage to them. If they are ready to talk about this thing, we should talk. But if they are not, then we should get rid of them with hard hands.
Ji, Dr. Manzoor, your comments as far as Taliban particularly are concerned, our strategy across the border to deal with them also. Of course, we have had a very strong reaction from our armed forces, from our government, or everyone. But in terms of Dr. Manzoor, so
Yes,
in terms of dealing with the Taliban now, of course, it has to be made very clear to them that Pakistan will not tolerate this kind of terrorism.
It is important because the border management is necessary. Already, even during the Ashraf Ghani period, this border was managed, at least a try was made to be managed. But now, even after the taking over of Taliban is the rulers of Kabul, so it is the shared responsibility of both Pakistan and Afghanistan to manage this, because this is the thing, and this is, the border is there, which can, get the situation even more worse. So that's why the government in Afghanistan, they should also consider that how much it is important. Because if
do you think that they are effectively controlling things there? Because of course there's a lot of infighting, like I earlier mentioned. Things are not.
I don't think so that it is 100% controllable for them, but at least they can focus and they can shift their priority even from some other borders to this Pakistan and Afghanistan border. So it should be, managed properly by both the states. And second thing, that information sharing, that is also very much important for both states to share with one another. And the third thing, it should be understood by both that security, it is their prime concern, and it is the most wanted thing for both nations to develop and to work together. Even future, it can be more gruesome if we don't take measures together.
Right, fair enough. Dr. Akhtar, your comments. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Dr. Akhtar, your comments overall in terms of what measures you would like to see happen immediately.
We have to, as for strategies, long-term and short-term measures. For short-term measures, as far as Afghanistan is concerned, we have to improve our surveillance as far as border management is concerned on the main passages. Then we have a very long Durand line. So there are two things. One is the ground surveillance, and the second is the air surveillance. So we have to improve, and wherever there are some breaches, as far as the fences are concerned, so those have to be repaired so that no one can get an ingress through that. So together, ground surveillance and air surveillance would go a long way as well to prevent ingress through these routes. So then we have to do proper documentations over there. We have to install computerized systems where we can detect the suspects if they pass through those areas.
Right, fair enough. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Farid Rais, thank you for joining us. Lieutenant General Raza Mohammed Khan, thank you for being with us. Dr. Akhtar Ali Shah, thank you for joining us. Dr. Manzoor Afridi, thank you for being with us today. Overall, of course, the areas that we've identified are, working as far as the narrative is concerned. That's very important. Also, of course, dealing with border security, our own economic situation and political unity. Of course, that seems to be the order of the day. If we can achieve that along with economic stability and of course, as far as our security forces are concerned, our army is concerned, our government is concerned, it's committed to ensuring a peaceful Pakistan. Let's hope that we will not see any more of these kind of attacks and of course we can insulate and defend ourselves and there's no doubt about that. Thank you so much for joining us today on this.